They were media darlings. They liked the attention. What's the point of being a gangster if nobody knows who you are?
Philadelphia watches the bloody spectacle played nightly on TV.
Police are calling it a mob assassination.
Behind the gunfire, a bitter contest between greed and tradition that tears the Philadelphia underworld apart. Angelo Bruno, godfather of the Philadelphia Mafia for 21 years, is one of North America's most powerful organized crime bosses. To the authorities, he portrays himself as a quiet tobacco salesman. But in reality, he makes millions from illicit gambling rackets, collecting illegal taxes from local businesses and loan sharking. Former Philadelphia mobster Nick the Crow Caramandi killed for the Philly mob and grew up in the city under Bruno's rule.
He became the boss in 1959, and he ruled it with an iron hand. He kept it pretty quiet, and not too many murders. A murder occasionally, here and there.
Bruno's lawyer and friend, Nick Nastasi, remembers Angelo's quiet authority.
I once walked with him in his neighborhood, and there wasn't this ostentatious show of, I'm a tough guy, I'm a wise guy. It just wasn't a part of his character.
March 21st, 1980, a stormy evening in South Philadelphia. Angelo Bruno pulls up outside his house. At the wheel is his trusted driver, John Stanfa, a Sicilian-born mafia associate. Bruno lives in the heart of the city's Italian-American community. Here he feels safe. As a mafia don, he rules these streets, but not for long.
The shooting was gangland style. Angelo Bruno was shot in the back of the head at point-blank range.
FBI agent Jim Marr is called in to investigate the crime scene.
Bruno was still seated in the passenger side of the car, his mouth open, his head back. From looking at the body, first it appeared as though he'd been shot behind the right ear.
Bruno's death sent shockwaves through Philadelphia's close-knit Italian community. Many in South Philly respected him. They called him the Gentle Don because of his preference for conciliation over violence.
Perfect gentleman, perfect neighbor, always had a hello, always spoke kind. He was such a well-liked man that didn't realize that something like this could happen.
Bruno's murder causes panic inside the closed world of the Philadelphia Mafia.
Angelo gets killed, and everybody's running in different directions, trying to figure out who did it. Everybody was scared to death.
Bruno grew up here, in the Italian market district, and people looked up to him. He'd come a long way, from the son of a grocer to a millionaire. His parents were Sicilians, part of a wave of immigration during the 1900s. Many made their home in South Philadelphia, just a mile from Independence Hall, the birthplace of the U.S. Constitution. But the early Italian immigrants soon encountered barriers of wealth and class that excluded them from the elitist social circles of Philadelphia. So they closed ranks and built their own fortunes. At the heart of it all, the Italian market that still operates today. It was here that the early Italian gangs began to operate in the fragile immigrant community. They made good money running protection rackets from other rival gangs. The Sicilians emerged as the most powerful. The Philadelphia Mafia was born. Journalist and Philly mob expert George Anastasia, descended from Sicilian immigrants himself, grew up in South Philadelphia.
They come to this country as immigrants, they're Italians. At that point, a lot of doors are closed. They make the choice to become gangsters. It's the wrong choice, but they make that choice, and they rise to the top of their field.
It was in this world that Angelo Bruno operated, and soon he proved he had the ability to rise to the top.
I've since represented hundreds and hundreds of people in leadership positions, and I will tell you that Angelo Bruno was as bright and inquisitive a mind as the most inquisitive minds that I've represented.
Bruno, seen here in this FBI surveillance film, ran his organization the Sicilian way. Honor, loyalty, and obedience were the pillars on which the Philly mob stood. Its members bound by sacred oaths and secret rituals. Chief among them, Omerta, the vow of silence. Induction into the family was reserved for those who killed for the organization and was marked by solemn ritual. The hand is cut and religious symbols are burned to signify the sacred blood ties of the Mafia and its members. For Philadelphia mobster Nick Caramandi, it was a major honor.
It's like you died and went to heaven. I mean, you're somebody now, you know. It's not something that you could join. You have to be chosen. If I betray any of these people here, I should die like the saints in hell.
True to Mafia traditions, Angelo Bruno's crew lived and died by this strict code of silence. You didn't rat on your brothers, and you didn't brag about what you were doing.
Angelo Bruno was very much an old world kind of mafia boss, maybe the last one in Philadelphia. And the idea was you make money, you don't make headlines. You don't call attention to yourself.
Bruno had strong ties with New York boss of bosses, Carlo Gambino. Together they sat on the commission, a board of the most powerful mob bosses in the U.S. Bruno allows the Gambinos to operate drug deals on his territory for a percentage of the profits. But he bans his own Philadelphia crew from participating in the lucrative narcotics trade. This riles many of Bruno's underlings. Frustrated, they start to resent his financial success. Bruno miscalculates the rising levels of discontent.
It led to Angelo Bruno's downfall because some of his members felt he was grabbing all the money for himself, holding it, and they couldn't do anything.
Among the dissenting factions is Bruno's ambitious consigliere, or chief advisor, Tony Bananas Caponegro. Soon after Bruno's death, Caponegro is summoned to New York by the commission. Nick Caramandi speaks to him before he leaves Philadelphia.
I'm in this bar that I met Tony, and he says, I'm going to New York tomorrow, and everything will be okay. When I come back, everything is going to be different.
But Caponegro doesn't return. He disappears. A month later, the Bronx, New York, 100 miles north of Philadelphia. The police investigate an abandoned car. A grisly trail of dollar bills leads to the trunk. Inside is a battered body. The dollar bills indicate the victim's transgression. Greed. It's Caponegro.
He was so badly beaten and unrecognizable that it took a month for the New York Police Department to identify the body.
Rumors spread. They revealed that Caponegro murdered Angelo Bruno so he could take the position of Philadelphia Godfather. The commission, infuriated that Caponegro killed Bruno without the consent, sentenced the consigliere to death for committing the ultimate violation against a mafia family. An unsanctioned hit.
It was economics. Bruno's killed, Caponegro's killed, and the Philadelphia family is kind of turned into a chaotic condition from which it never really recovered. It just was careening out of control ever since then.
With Angelo Bruno and Anthony Caponegro dead, the Philadelphia Mafia needs a new dawn. Phil Testa, Sicilian-born mafiosi, was Angelo Bruno's underboss, which makes him the natural choice for successor. With the approval of the New York crime families, Testa steps into Angelo Bruno's shoes, but they prove impossible to fill.
What he did was try to keep the Bruno reign and that style going. But It was unable to do that because there was too much at stake. Violence had been let loose, and people realized that they could advance by murder.
March 15, 1981. Almost a year to the day since the murder of Angelo Bruno. Mob boss Phil Testa returns to his home in South Philadelphia.
Police are calling it a mob assassination.
Testa is fatally wounded by a remote-controlled nail bomb placed under the front stoop.
How loud was the explosion?
Loud enough to blow me right out of my bed. I said, it must be a bomb or something, you know, the way it went off.
It was very powerful. It was the contents of 13 sticks of dynamite in a box with finishing nails. It was designed to act like a claymore mine and scatter all the shrapnel. It blew most of the wall out into the street in front of the house, with some of the debris hitting his car, which was double parked.
The perpetrators of the bombing are never brought to justice, although many believe the incident was ordered by Testa's ambitious underboss, Peter Casello. Philadelphia has lost 2 godfathers in less than a year. It's unprecedented. Once again, the New York crime families must decide who will become Philadelphia's next Don. It's a decision that started the bloodiest chapter in Philadelphia's violent mob history. 1981. The Philadelphia Mafia is in turmoil after the murder of 2 mob bosses, Angelo Bruno and Phil Testa, in less than a year. The door is wide open for a new godfather, and the man to step through it is little Nicky Scarfo, Testa's consigliere.
One little thing, I mean, Scarfo could turn on you in a minute. I mean, we all were afraid, you know, we followed the rules. As long as you followed the rules, you were okay. But if he didn't like somebody, that was it. There was no nonsense. Dead.
What Scarfo lacks in height, he makes up for in violence. Within the first year of his reign, 9 people are murdered. 2 in retaliation for Phil Testa's death.
The Scarfo murder was a calling card. If you annoyed him, aggravated him, you're likely to get popped. And that destabilized the whole organization.
There was no regard to honor except for his. Everything centered around him. He was a totally self-centered, egotistical maniac.
Salvi Testa is the late Phil Testa's son and one of Scarfo's captains. Fellow mobsters see him as a future high flyer. Salvi has killed over 10 men for Scarfo, and the mob boss holds him in high esteem. Salvi plans to marry the daughter of Scarfo's underboss. The new Don gives the couple his blessing and plans an extravagant wedding.
The wedding was already set up. They were going to have Michael Jackson come and sing at this hotel, 700 guests.
But Salvi gets cold feet and calls the wedding off. Nicky Scarfo is furious.
Salvi Testa had embarrassed my underboss. He embarrassed me. You can't have that. What kind of respect is that? But the real reason was that Scarfo was worried that Salvi Testa was gaining too much of a following within the organization, very charismatic, a young kid, and he was worried about him as a rival.
Scarfo wants Salvi dead. He orders Nick the Crow Caramandi to make the hit.
I got nightmares over him because he was a true mafioso. I mean, they didn't come any better than him. And I really didn't want to see him go, but, you know, that's the way it was.
Out of loyalty to his blood oath, Caramandi follows orders. But Salvi Testa is no easy target. He's understandably nervous.
When he used to come around, he used to shake my hand and like sort of feel me down to see if I had a piece. He'd hug me and then with his hand feel me right down to the waist.
After months of waiting for a good place and time, Caramandi and his triggerman seized the opportunity and